Welcome to a bitterly cold issue 46 of Think Fishing. Well, on this issue of Think Fishing, I've brought you back to Todburn Manor. Now, it's not on the main site because we've already been there. We've done some Think Fishings there at Todburn. That's the new side of Todburn Manor. These two lakes here are called White Posts. These are actually John's sort of first lakes he ever dug. They're really quite old. They've had some work done on them over the years. And it's really an out-and-out carp water. I was here actually on the Christmas match. I didn't draw on this lake, I drew on the bottom lake. I had a great day. The water was really clear, really cold, but we still caught carp. So I brought you back. This is actually the top lake. It's quite wide around. They're a funny sort of lake. Some people can reach over in matches, some people can't. Now I've sat on an area where I can't reach. So the feeder, you know, little method feeder, little straight lead is going to play a part today. I know it will. I know it's going to be rock hard. I can see probably that far down. You know, I can see the stones on the bottom. So it's going to be rock hard, but this is what we do week in, week out during the winter. Come to venues like this, and we've got to put up with it. So I'm going to get back to my gear. There's a little bit of bait involved today, because when I come on venues like this, you know, whether I come to carp venues or F1 venues, silverfish venues, you've got to bring a little selection of bait, because you don't know from one day to the next what's going to work. So I'm going to get back, run you through all the bait, everything that I've set up to hopefully, fingers crossed, catch some carp today. Going to start off with the bait. Like I said in the intro, you're going to need a little selection of bait. Whether you're fishing a carp water like this or whether you're going to F1 silverfish, in the winter you've got to bring a little selection. It's all well and good when you go into a venue week in, week out and you know exactly what to bring. But when I come to matches on venues like this, I always bring a nice little selection. It's one of them things, unfortunately. Now, start off with the good old faithful maggot. You know, always bring live maggots. You never know on the day what's going to happen. Always got red maggots and white maggots mixed together. Now I've also brought a few deads. Now they're really for like going on the hook. If I do sort of fish a little method feeder during the match and I got a result to sort of single, double red maggot on a small hook, I've got some deads with me. So just live and dead maggots. Now I've got some 2mm Pro Feed there, straight out of the bag. I've put them in water for a little bit longer than what I normally do because it's really, really cold. I want the water to penetrate the pellet, and they're absolutely perfect. So I can put them around a little feeder or I can put them on the pole. Next bait, bit of F1 sweet corn. You know, always bring sweet corn on a carp venue. You never know. I mean, on Think Fishing, the last few episodes, maggots have been really important. But there's certain days when you go on certain venues, corn is fantastic. No matter how cold the water is, it can be a great bait. So I've just brought a tin of F1 sweet corn. The nice thing about that is some of the little pieces in there are really tiny, and on certain days when you're catching little stocky carp and big carp, it can make a huge difference. Now, one thing I have brought, and not a lot of people sort of use it during the winter, on some of my venues I go to, we catch on meat. Now I've just done one small tin of meat, 6mm. I've pushed it through a meat riddle this morning. You know, if you don't use it, you can always freeze it and bring it next time you go carp fishing, so you're not wasting it. So just one little tin of 6mm meat. Now, obviously, I don't know whether I'm going to catch on it, but some days you can even put this on the lead as well. If you're fishing the lead, it's rock hard, and you want to chuck a lead out, meat is really, really good. So just one little tin of meat. Now, obviously, I've brought a little selection of pellets. I've got some 4mm Pro Feed pellets there. Now, they're soaked right through. Like I've touched on Think Fishing before in the winter, sometimes you've got to soak your 4mm pellets. Now, what I've done with them, I'll talk about that once I've gone through the rest of the bait. I've got a few expanders, pro expanders there, 4 and 6mm. You know, like I said, you never know from one day to next. Expanders can be brilliant, so always bring a nice little selection of expanders. It's not a waste. I mean, I've literally got a handful, stuck them in a tub overnight, do them on the morning. They're there, ready to go in the morning. It's easy. It doesn't get any easier than that. The only other bait I've got is ground bait. I've mixed a little bit of ground bait. There's probably a pint and a half of Matt's Method mix normal in there, just natural colour. Mix that, you know, it's like I said, just small selections of bait. You don't need a lot, but you do need a selection. So Matt's Method mix there, mix that this morning, and that's ready to go on a Method. Sometimes even go on the pole for carp. If you're going to a venue with, you know, if they've just stocked it with some smaller carp, ground bait can be deadly. So that's it for the bait. Just going to talk about my pellets. Now, going back to the 4mm feed, a great way of doing these, so you don't have to mess about, I can hook these as well. So I've got some 4mm Pro feed. I've got my little tub there. It's like the tub I do for my expanders. Now, I've put about that many Pro feed pellets there, and I've put about 1 inch of water over the top of them. Now, I've left them in this overnight, and in the morning, you get there, tip them out, and as you can probably see from Dave, I think Dave can probably get them on the camera there. They're swelled right up, but they look exactly the same as a pellet. Now, they're soft enough, if you can see that on the camera, I can actually put them on the hook. But they're absolutely perfect, and it's easy. You know, it's a handful of pellets in a little plastic tub, like I do with me expanders, and they're perfect in the morning. You don't have to mess about, tip them out of the tub, and you're ready to go. So that's the bait. I'll now run you through the rigs and the rods that I've made up for today. Just before I run through the rigs, there's one bait that I didn't actually talk about, I forgot, and it can be mega important, is bread. Now I've got a bag of Warburton breads there. I think that's the best bread. I've used other bread. I actually went fishing the other day, and my missus, I did give her a bollocking to be fair, she bought me some Tesco's bread, and for fishing on the hook it was useless. To try and stick with this toasty Warburtons, I think it's really good. So there you go. I've got a slice in there in my little punch set ready to go, and now I'm going to start on that on the lead. But anyway, let's go through the rigs. Rigs and rods are nice and simple for today's session. You don't need a load of gear. I mean, it's the same depth really where I plumb up, but I'll talk through the rod setup first. I've got a lovely little 9-foot Tyson rod, really nice and soft. 9 foot on this sort of venue is really important. You know, people say to me, why do you use a 9 over a 10? These are the venues where you need a little 9-foot rod. It makes a big difference to the accuracy of your casting. Now on there, I've got 6-pound main line. As it is winter, and when you're using little bombs like I'm using today and little tiny feeders, I think 6 pounds really important. You can get the line down under the water quicker, and it makes it a lot easier to cast. Now I've got a new little system on there. This is called an ICM system. It's actually like the ICS system where you can interchange your bomb, your feeders, but it's smaller. And on there I can actually put, let me just grab them two. There's a little pellet feeder, and as you can see from that, like a little tiny Method feeder. These are really important this time of year. When you're casting out, the fish aren't really feeding that heavily. These little feeders can make a massive difference. But on there at the moment, I've got a little 20-gram bomb, but obviously if I want to change to a pellet feeder or a little Method feeder, I can take that bomb and slip either one of them on that stem. So there you go, that's my little rod setup for the day. On there I've got 0.15, a hook length of 0.15, power line to a 16 kkm, and I've got a little rapid stop on there because I'm going to be starting on bread. But obviously with a little quick change speed that I've got on there, I can take that hook length off, put a little Method on there. I've got some little 3 and 4 inch hook lengths that I can put on, so it's really easy to change. But I'm going to start on the lead because I think it's going to be rock hard. I'm hoping, you know, they're going to be on it straight away, but you never know. So that's my little rod setup. Only 2 pole rigs today. I've got the first one there is my 4B16 F1 Maggot. Now people say to me, why do I fish these sort of floats? I'll just go for an example. I think it's really important that, I mean, that's like what we call an inter-diamond. Now, if you're going to like a deep water, you know, you're fishing for big carp, things like that, them floats are brilliant. Now, but I always say to people, when you're going to a venue such as this, when you're catching all sorts of different size fish, you know, and they can be really hard to catch sometimes, try and stick, I mean, that's a 2mm bristle on them, but that float is a 1.5mm, and it can make a big difference. If your eyesight's not great, I always say to people when I've taken people coaching, if you want a little bit more float showing in the winter, that's fine, but make sure your bristle's a little bit thinner because it still gives you good sort of bite. You can see the bite better. So just bear that in mind when you're looking to, you know, when you're looking to fish in the winter with different floats. Anyway, let's get down to the nitty gritty of things. Elastics, I've opted for 10 hollow because I am fishing for carp. I think there's an odd Caraccio in here, but really no silvers. It is trying to catch carp. Little cad pot on there on the end. Whether I'm going to use that or not, I don't know, but it's there just in case. 015 power line because we are fishing for carp. Getting down to the shotting pattern, it doesn't get easier, like all my rigs really, for carp fishing and a lot of my F1, you know, fishing in deepish water. It is about 5.5 foot deep when I'm fishing. I've got a 4B16, like I said, a 4B16 F1 maggot float, simple bulk of number 8s, and then 2 number 9 droppers. Probably 18 inches from the hook, the bulk. So standard rigs, nice and simple. Getting down to the hook, I've got a 6-inch hook length of 013 power line, and I've got an 18 GPM hook. Now I've opted for an 18 because I want to go out with a small hook, because if I need to fish double maggot, I think an 18 today, with the water being so clear, in my mind is right. I can always step up. I've got my hook lengths here. If it's really good and I think I can get away with a 16 that's there, I can just put it on. But it's the way I fish during the winter. When I go to venues like this where I can catch carp this big or carp that big, you know, just start off with an 18 and see how you get on. So that's the first rig. That's for fishing out long. The wind's going to be awkward today. That's why I've set a 4B16 up for fishing out long. Even though the wind it's actually turned a little bit. It was sort of sideways. It's turned off our back a bit, which is a little bit better. The second rig is what I've set up for fishing a top kit +3. Because even though it's winter time, on some venues, you might not catch there till late, but you can go in there and you might just nick a few fish. And I always set one up no matter what venue I fish. Same again, nice and standard stuff, 10 Dura hollow, 015 power line, main line, and all I've done on there is set a 4B14 F1 maggot up instead of a 4B16 because I'm fishing in a bit closer. It is slightly shallower and it just felt right to fish a little smaller float there because of the wind, really, to be honest. Exactly the same as the 4B16, apart from I've got number 9s as bulk because it is a 4B14 rather than number 8s. The same again on there. I've just got 2 number 10 droppers instead of number 9 droppers. A little bit more airy-fairy. These rigs I can use for everything, you know, for F1s and carp. And exactly the same hook. I've got 013 power line hook length to an 18 GPM hook. So standard stuff, just to, you know, so just keep it nice and simple and make your rigs as a standard setup and you can't go wrong. So that's the rigs and the rod I set up for today's session. I'm now going to turn around, start the session and talk you through everything that I'm going to be doing and what's going through my mind while I'm fishing. Right, I'm ready to go now. Obviously it's always gambles what you start on. I'm going to start on a bombing bread because if I was on this lake today with the water being as clear as what it is, you know, if I was on a pole peg or I could reach over, I would definitely be dobbing bread. There's no doubt. I mean, you can have a great run. I remember on the match before Christmas down there, I couldn't believe how clear it was. I actually caught 15 carp. I was near a corner and I dobbed up the bank and caught 15 carp in the first sort of hour and 45 minutes. Now, I haven't got that option today because I'm too far away from the bank. But I'm going to start on a bobbing bread. Now, other anglers might, you know, round you might start on a little feeder, a little pellet feeder. You know, that's a gamble you take on any sort of fishing. So, but I'm going to feed the pole lines first with not a lot, to be honest. I mean, I'm going to gamble today and feed a meat and corn line slightly to me left. It's nice here because it's the same depth. I don't have to set up, you know, rigs to fish in different areas. So on one line, I'm going to feed pellets, a few micros, a few 4 mils, a few of those soaked 4 mils. But on the other line, I'm going to feed like a little bit of corn, a little bit of meat. So I'm going to start off with a little ball of micros. This is on my right hand line, both at 14.5 meters because it's being cold and clear. I want to get out in that lake. You know, I think the fish ain't going to come in close, not at the start anyway. So I'm going to feed a little ball of micros like that, you know, like a walnut size, and a few of those soaked 4 mils. Really important, these soaked 4 mils. If you can do it like I do in that little container, then, you know, you don't have to think about it. It's really, really easy. So I'm going to put them on my 14.5 meter line, straight in front of me this is. Take your time shipping out. That sun is really going to be awkward today because it's coming round straight in my face. So I've got myself lined up Orange tip floats, nice little shadow I've got. I've just got a tree opposite. Smack that in. It's hardly anything, but that's this sort of fishing. And on my left hand line, which I can't really see at the moment anyway because the sun's there, I'm going to put literally hardly anything, like 10 grains of meat and the same of corn. You can see in them little, that F1 corn, you've got these tiny little bits. And on the day, certain venues I fish, not just for carp, but for F1s and bream, these tiny little bits of corn can make a big difference. So I'm going to put that in. It's a gamble, I know, but that's what fishing's all about. And if them bigger carp are feeding, even in the winter, corn and meat can be brilliant. Same length again. The wind, you know, if the wind was like sideways, I'd have to bring that back a little bit. It'd have to be 13. So that's just slightly to me left. Now on me short line, which is a top kit plus 3, if I can't see because of the sun, I'm going to do that slightly different. I'm going to put a pellet line in. Just another little ball again with a few 4mm, but I can chuck a few 4mm, the odd little grain of corn over it. But I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to feed slightly to me right. It's always nice to have a little area, but to me left, I'm actually going to put maggots in. Because if you're on a venue, you know, you might be able to, if it's really, really tough, I might be able to go in there. If there's a few roach, I know it's only roach and that, but if it's a few F1s, a few roach, you might be able to put a few fish in the net. But out long, really, I want to try and catch carp. That's what I'm here to do. So just literally, probably 80, 100 maggots. I'm not going to put like 5 in, even though it's freezing cold. I want to put a bit of bait in there. So just sprinkle them out like that. Whether I'm going to catch on that, I haven't got a clue. But I would do it in a match, so I'm going to do it today. Now I'm going to start, just get this pole out of the way a minute. I'm going to start on my little bomb. Now you obviously see me set up what I spoke about. Now I'm going to start on a 10mm little bread punch there, little Preston bread punch. Are absolutely brilliant because inside you can actually push it down so it does bread, or you can actually do that with it, so you can punch meat, so you can have a big long stringy bit of meat if you want and cut it down. But I want to do it with bread, so I push it down, lock that into place like that, and then I can compress me bread. It's perfect. So I've got me bread in there. I'm going to get a couple of discs out, just force that out like. So what you can do is do that, so that forces the bread out. So I'm going to get 3 discs, like that. Get my baiting needle, push that into the rapid stop, like that, and get me discs of bread, and just push that through the middle of each one, like that. You can do 2, you can do 3. Sometimes you just do 1 if you're fishing for F1s and things. Sometimes just 1 disc can be good, but I'm going to put 3 on because, like I said, I'm fishing for carp. Got a nice hair on there. They're straight off the Magstore system. 10, I think it's about 11mm between the hook and the rapid stops. Is perfect. Like you can see from that, looks absolutely perfect. Well, I'm ready to go now. Like I said, 20 gram bomb, little 3 discs of 10mm bread. So not clipped up right against the bank, a little about 1 metre off to start with, but I can creep against it. At the moment it's hard because I've got to dodge the seed where I'm casting because of the sun. There, that was lovely, that. So get it down. Like I said, even when you're when you're doing your pellet feeder fishing and method feeder fishing, get your line down. Obviously not tightening up to it too much. This is where you're sort of thinking, right, you know, whilst that's out, I'm just going to do a few more discs ready for me next cast. So I'm not wasting time if I do start catching a few. Sometimes you can drop it short as well. If you're fishing up against an island or the far bank, it's not all about chucking it right against the bank. Sometimes you can come a couple of meters off. If the carp are swimming around and you know it's clear, they're not going right against the bank like they do in the summer, don't be afraid to drop it a little bit shorter. Normally, if there's a few around, it's like when you dob on the pole. If there's a few fish in your peg, you normally get quite a quick response. So I'm just going to do a load of discs ready to go in there, like that. I said it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be difficult today. The sun's out, it's bright, it's freezing cold, got a full-on northerly. And it's been a funny, you know, the last few weeks for me, fishing's been really weird. Even though we've had some good weather for this winter, the fishing's been real funny. I mean, I do all sorts of fishing during the winter, carp, F1, silverfish, and it's strange. You think these venues are going to be really good, and some of the fishing's been really difficult. But that's what, you know, that sometimes sometimes in the winter you want a nice cold spell, and the fish get settled, and they start feeding. And we've not really had that. We've had sort of a cold snap, you know, and it's been like 8-9 degrees during the day, and you're going out fishing, you think this is going to be brilliant today, and it's been really difficult. But the water's been, a lot of venues I've been going to, the water's gone really clear, even though it's been quite warm for like a few days. And that tells me that the fish aren't really feeding. They're just sat there, not really that bothered. And that's what you got, you know, you got to be careful what you feed and how much you feed. And trying to find out what the best bait is on the day. So I'm just going to leave this for a little bit. It is a confidence thing with bread. Sometimes you go out and you think, is it come off? Is it not? You know, but sometimes I've sat there for like 15 minutes. I don't like sitting there for 15 minutes on the bomb with bread, to be honest. Especially if I go to a venue with some small fish in it. You think the roach have pecked it off. And then one little tip as well, sometimes you can put like 2 of the discs on straight out of your punch, and the last one I sometimes squeeze quite hard like that. And that, I think that's where your rapid stop sits, and that gives you a little bit more confidence that it's not being pushed off on your cast or when it hits the line clip. There's little things like that I think about when I'm fishing with bread on the bomb. There's no indications yet, no liners. And I'm always thinking about, well, you know, do I drop it a little bit shorter? Just in the deeper water. I'm looking down the edge here today, and it is clear. And when I chucked the bomb over before we started the session, it is quite shallow over there, so it might be worth just me taking a turn off my reel before I cast out next time and just dropping it another metre short, just to see if they are down the shelf a little bit. Well, the rod's just shot round. I've left it there for about, I've had 2 casts. This is the second cast. When I brought it back, I put 2 little bits of bread on, 2 discs of bread instead of 3, just to try it. And it was there for about 7 minutes. It's just shot round. Got a decent carp on now. So that's great. It's probably like 10 minutes, 12 minutes, and I've had a bite, which is brilliant. So I got, like I said, nice little soft 9-foot rod. Really important this time of year, you know, when every fish is going to count. Things are tough. This feels like quite a decent fish as well, to be honest. Just got me clutch set a little bit, just to give it a little bit when I'm playing them. Brilliant start. That makes me feel a lot better, to be honest. For how cold it is and how clear, it just shows you can still catch carp. Beautiful carp, stunning, absolutely beautiful. I don't think there's a mark on that fish. A great start, well up, bottom lip. Let's get out there and get another one. The rod actually just went like that, really. A little bit, I've actually took a little bit off. I dropped that a little bit short on that second cast as well. Probably about 2 meters off. So another couple of discs. Like I say, you can put the first disc on sort of straight out the punch, and the second one, just give it a little bit of a squeeze like that. And for me, in my mind, it just helps it. In my mind, it's sitting on the, it's not coming off when it hits your line clip. It's really awkward to, so that was there, you can probably see that. It's probably like 4 foot deep there where I cast. I mean, it's not my favourite sort of fishing, you know, straight lead fishing. You know, I am an angler, as you probably all know watching Fink Fishing. I am an angler that likes to feed. I want to get the fish feeding, but I've had some great days on dobbing bread. Admittedly, you have got to draw where there's some fish. You're not going to catch fish where there's no fish. Obviously, we all know that. But you have to do it. Some days, them fish will be sat there, not interested. You can fish a bit of bread and you can catch yourself loads of fish. But obviously, it depends on the venue you go. If you go to a venue with lots and lots of little fish, sometimes they just take the bread off your hook and you got no choice but to fish other baits. So as I'm fishing that, I'm just getting 3 or 4 of my soaked 4mm pellets and throwing them on that short line slightly to me right. I've not fed the other lines yet. I'm just going to leave them, but it won't be long. I'm probably looking to feed them every sort of 30 minutes or so. So that like pellet line to me right, I can just go out there, put another little nugget of 2mm pellets in with a few soaked 4mm, and I can do the same. Sorry, well, not the same, but obviously feed the left hand line where I'm putting that little bit of meat in and a little bit of mixed, you know, a little bit of mixed meat and corn together. But I just want to stick with this at the moment. I know it's going to be hard. There's not a single fish top. It's going to be rock hard, and this is going to be all about, you know, trying to catch what you can. But obviously, in my mind at the moment, I'm thinking, even though it's crystal clear, putting a little feeder on, you know, it still might be getting bites. So, you know, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, I want to start on bread. It might not be right, but you can sometimes catch some real big fish, the big old fish that are in some of these lakes. You know, the wise ones, they're swimming around, not really interested. You know, sometimes on bombing bread, or if you're dobbing bread with a pole, you can catch some right big creatures, you know, the real wise ones that are really sort of not really bothered about feeding. Well, I've got my second fish on now. Weird, really, because I've just missed, well, I don't know if they're a bite. This feels like a good fish, this. I've just missed 2 indications where my tip's just gone like that, and I've had nothing. And that bite there was like a little dink, and it just dropped back. So I'm not sure whether I missed a bite, or whether it's sort of just, the bombs just dropped down the shelf. But this feels like a right proper fish, this. And this is what this bombing bread's about. Like I said, it ain't my favourite method. Anybody who knows me, I am not a straight lead angler. I hate it. But unfortunately, during the winter and the summer, as we know, you have got to do it some days. And when it goes round, I must admit, it's really enjoyable. It's not enjoyable, obviously, when you're sat there and you're not catching nothing. But that applies to any sort of fishing. But it's nice when it's going around. This little 9-foot Tyson rod. It's a little bit softer than the Sapiras, and for this time of year when it's cold, it's absolutely perfect. Especially little venues like this where you've got to chuck like 20 odd metre. Oh yeah, look at that unit. That's what bombing bread can catch you. Like I said earlier, stamp fish, the ones that are not really that bothered about feeding. All right, Babs. Look at that. What a beautiful fish that is. Full on northerly wind. I bet the water's only probably like 6 degrees. I haven't got me disgorger, bad angling. I don't know what I've done with that. Put it in my pocket. Right, Babs, careful. I'm going to try and hold this baby up. That was on 2 discs. 2 10mm discs again. Let's get that out of the way a minute. He's not going to be happy because the sun's out. Oh, that fish is absolutely freezing. This is going to screw my hands. Look at that. On a day like today, don't get better, does it? Absolutely brilliant. Double 10mm disc of bread, 16 km. Brilliant, let's get him back. I've got another one on now. This was the next chuck. Like I said, a couple of meters off. I definitely started too close to the bank. I've come a couple of meters off and I've had 3 bites. Not a big one, this one. Not as big as that last boy anyway. Little stocky, I think. No, not stocky, but probably 1.5 pounds. Look at that, beautiful. Bottom lip, every fish I've hooked, them 3 fish I've hooked have all been in the bottom lip. And that makes me think that bread's probably popped off the bottom. I think when you catch fish popped up, most of them are hooked in the bottom lip. So change to 2 discs. Just get that one disc first, which is straight out of the punch, nothing with it. And the next disc I'm just pressing quite firmly. Like I said, that gives me the confidence that is going to get to the bottom without coming off. Really awkward at the moment with that sun in my eyes. Could do with a pair of sunglasses on, to be honest. Like I said, quite a way off that, and it's still shallow because the bomb's only got probably, it's literally like 1, 2, bonk. It's probably a little bit too shallow against that bank at the moment. But that's brilliant. 3 bites in like 20 minutes. Chuck a few pellets on that short line. Only a few, literally 3 or 4, that's all you need. Got a little bend in the tip, nothing too severe. Little ounce and a half tip in there, which I find perfect for, you know, winter and summer carp fishing. It's one of my favourite sort of size tips, to be honest, ounce and a half. Especially for fishing not very far out. If you're fishing big waters and stuff, then you might step up to a 2 ounce tip. Or even 3 ounces if you're chucking the real long way. But next sort of 10 minutes, I'm going to feed them 2 pole lines. I just want to make sure that I look after that. You know what I do in fink fishing, look after them lines. You know, I'm looking for, I can't really see, but I'm looking for a bubble, you know, little indication. I haven't seen nothing yet, to be honest. And sometimes on this bread, you can literally, if they're there in numbers, you can cast the bomb out, it hits the clip, and you put your rod down, and it's round immediately. And if they're there and there's like a ball of them, and they're just sat there, they'll be on it immediately. It's fantastic when you're on fish. But it's not been like that. I think it's probably took me about 7 minutes for the first fish, and the last 2 have probably been about 4 or 5. And I find that on the pole sometimes, when you're dobbing bread on the pole, unless that bread is like a sort of like dripping off the hook, sometimes you don't get a bite. So that might be the case on this bomb. Nice bites though. The last 2 bites have been the same really. It's been like a real fast dink, and then your tip's doing that. But the first one was just, you know, if you left it, it took your rod off your rest. Just had a tiny little indication, like a little tiny liner then. But at the moment, I'm just trying to find out really the best place to chuck it. And sometimes with bobbing bread, the same with the pole, sometimes you might have to just move a couple of meters, chuck it in again. But obviously in the back of my mind, I'm obviously thinking about, you know, will they take a bit of bait today? Will you better chuck a little feeder out? That's something that I'll have to make my mind up as we go along. But with that ICM system, it's easy because I can just take the bomb off, put a little feeder on, short root length, and I'm away. That's what's so nice about it. Well, I'm playing another one now. It's only a small one. I've had another one about £8 just before this one. And it's amazing that me bites are coming like 7 minutes roughly. I've not got a clock or anything, but it feels like about 7 minutes. It's only a small one, this one, little ghosty. But I think that's probably my 7th fish in 45 minutes, 50 minutes, which is brilliant, really. On a day like today, I mean, these fish, I can't, honestly, on film, they are absolutely like blocks of ice. So it's brilliant. It just shows you the power of bread. But I've had some right good fish as well. Just sticking with them two. And every single fish has been hooked right in the bottom lip, which I think that's where the bread is popped off the bottom. They won't take it unless, I'm not sure if there's that many fish there. There's obviously a few there. I've had 7, which is brilliant, really. But I think they won't touch it unless it's literally like completely exploded. I have done this fishing before, and you like put the bomb in and it's round immediately. But they don't seem to want to touch it unless it's completely like a blown up, real soft piece of bread. About 2 meters off. It's definitely is much better there. It might even be a little bit more than that. It's probably like 2.5 meters off the far bank. Just chucking them few, like literally four of those soap ball meals on that short line to me right. I've not fed the other lines. I'm going to feed it. If I get one this cast, I'm going to feed me other pole lines because I can't. I've literally left it 45 minutes, so I definitely want to feed it. I've not seen any signs of fish, but that was a really weird bite. That it's sort of. I sat there and my tips just like moved a tiny little bit. I left it and I thought, I don't know what that was. And then it's just like nodded and then gone. It was amazing. I was just going to wind it in thinking someone had the bread off. And I thought, I'll just leave it for a few seconds and it's gone round. It's like there was one there sort of milling around. And then it's decided to take me hook bait. It's absolutely freezing. You've got to keep your hands dry, otherwise your hands, once you play a fish, dry your hands because your tip of your hands get really cold. And luckily at the moment the wind is off me back, which is lovely. If that had been in your face today, it would have been really, really cold. At least you can actually sit here and fish quite nicely. But it gives, it's nice to come out, even if you're a match angler like I am, just to come to these sort of venues and chuck a bomb out with bread. Because it gives you the confidence, when you chuck that bread out and it hits the water, it hits your clip, you think how soft that bread goes. Sitting here today, it's quite nice to catch the fish on bombing bread because it's giving me the confidence then of going to a match, chucking it out and leaving it for like 15 minutes. So it's quite nice to do that. As I said, if you're a match angler, go out and give it a go. Because there will be certain days when you've got to do it, you've got no choice, and it can be a match winner. And it can give you a fantastic start. You might not catch on it, you might catch 6 fish on it, you might not, you might catch 15 like I did the other week. That was on the pole, admittedly. But without them, I've probably caught 50 pound in nearly 2 hours. And you can just look at the water and think, and when I actually fed against the island with pellets and, I tried maggots, I caught nothing. I'd never caught a fish where I fed any bait because it was that clear. I think they're just bombing around. They're sort of, they know there's people fishing for them because there's people lobbing feeders out, down from me and things like that. So they're not stupid. And if I would have gone over and fed bait at the start, which is what I always want to do because I am a match angler, I love feeding bait like I said earlier, but if I wouldn't have dobbed bread, I don't think I'd have caught half as many. And it wasn't until late in the match when I actually come away from the island to the deeper water is when I actually started catching on the pole. And that's what that bread can give you. That bread fishing, whether it's a pole or a bomb, can give you that great start. Sometimes, like I said, you have got to draw order some fish. We all know that. But if you go and do it wrong from the start, you go and chuck bait out some days and it's the wrong thing to do. You've sort of messed your day up, really. But you would think you chuck it out, if there's fish there, they'd be on it, and it ain't like that. It's like that bread's got to sort of you know, take all the, it's got to be like a lump of snot really. It's got to expand before they take it. And no liners. I think I've had one liner. It just sits there. Some of the bites are like real aggressive. Some of them are like this, you know. And the big ones normally are the bites where it just like nods like that. Oh, there you go. Proper wraparound bite. Feels like a decent fish as well, this one. So that was like probably like 6 or 7 minutes again. It's ever so weird. I actually went to Italy in November, and it was freezing cold like this, and most of your bites, even though it was rock hard, most of your bites come within 2 and 3 minutes. So I'm sat there thinking, is that bread off? Is that bread off? Wallop, straight round. Nice fish though. Proper aggressive bite that. 3 pounder. So it's going absolutely brilliant. But I'm going to feed me pole line. I'm going to get this one in the net. Feed me pole lines. That's the first one I've actually hooked in the side of the mouth. The others have all been hooked in this bottom lip here. Look at the condition of the mouth. It's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? Bit of winter carp fishing, don't get better. So I'm going to feed me other pole lines now. And to be honest, I'm not going to come off of this for a while because it's brilliant. But like I said in all my fink fishings, I'm going to put a tiny little ball in of them pellets again at me 14.5 metre to me right, and a few more 4 mils. So I want to, you know, I am carp fishing, so I want to try and get them on, you know, bigger baits if I can, if it is one of them days. I've just got myself lined up with that tree. Not a lot, a little bit. You know, got to think about the conditions. Cold, clear water. I mean, I can see my keep net. I mean, how deep's that there? 3 foot. I can see my keep net quite easily on the bottom there. Just to sort of give you a rough thing what the water's like. So on that meat and corn line, 50-50 meat and corn. A bit like summer fishing, but I'll tell you now, it's worth doing. If you go to a carp water like this and you can catch on it late, you can do absolutely brilliantly. So sprinkle that out. I'm not going to feed my other short line with pellets. I'm just going to put my maggot line in, because I am throwing a few 4 mils over that. So I just put a little ball in to start with. I'm going to put about the same amount of maggots in again. You know, not, you know, there's a few there. There's probably 100 maggots. It's not a lot, admittedly, but it's just ticking it over. But I've had a good start, which is brilliant. I'm going to back out on that bread again. Definitely 2 discs, sorry, of 10 mil punch is the crack. And just like I said, putting one on straight out the punch, and then one on, which I give a nice squeeze, and put him on second, so that one sits against the quick stop, like that. And the sun's giving on that tree. I can actually cast out at the moment, see what I'm casting. You see that? It's probably about that far off the island, 2 meters. You know, just let the line sink, get the line down. Definitely fishing in the right area there, I think. That far off the island, no liners, and the odd bite. And just chucking them few 4 mils on that other short line. So that's like, obviously I'm fishing like that, left and right, maggots to me left on me short and pellets to me right, because it gives you that option. That's what you need in the winter. You need them options. Unless you go to a venue that you know what's happening, you know it's out and out maggots, or you know it's out and out pellets. When I go to a venue like this, I haven't got a clue. I obviously try and speak to a few people in the morning. Oh yeah, they're catching everything on a little method or whatever, you know. But if not, if you're you know, I go to all sorts of different places, and I've got to feel myself into the match. And it's not a bad thing sometimes, because you'll go there and do something like that, meat and corn, and you'll take the place out. You know, I tell people what I've caught on, some people don't. And, you know, if you do go there and you have a real good day on meat and corn, for example, and you don't, you know, you can have it away if you like, keep it a little bit of a secret. I like to tell people what I've caught on, which ain't always the greatest thing, because obviously I've got to go there next week and they're all on it. But that, you know, that's what you got to do on a venue like this. And I think my next step, once I think this is gone, I'd want to have a look on the pole rather than going on the feeder at the moment. And just make your mind up then. If I go on the pole and I start catching and the pole goes a bit dead, obviously I could go back on the bomb, but at least if I go on the pole and I think they want a bit of bait, it'd probably give me a bit of confidence to go and chuck a little method out or a little pellet feeder. There we go. Like I said, probably 7 or 8 minutes again. I think Dave had that bite on the camera this time. He's doing his job properly today. It just looks like it's never going to go round. You think that bread's off and then the tip shoots round like that. I've just chucked one of my punches in the water, and I'll get Dave the cameraman to get it in a minute. It just shows you how big it goes. Another nice fish. Look at that, fresh as a daisy then. See that again, hooked in the bottom lip again. Look at that, stunning. Showroom condition. So I'm not going to change nothing, that's brilliant. Like 2 punches. And then give that second one a nice little squeeze. Make sure that rapid stop is sat flush against the back of the bread. It's like a little 20mm bomb. Didn't go in there particularly well that time. The trouble is I want to fish. We have got like a little 15mm punch. The problem is I want to make sure it's held against where I chuck it. And I think there's a little bit of a stony shelf there. There's a few times I've had a little indication and the bomb's sort of gone down the shelf a little bit. But they do swell up really big, them bread. You know, that toasty bread is thick. I've just chucked a bit down the edge there, and I'll get Dave to put it on the film in a minute. And you can see how much it expands. And it's mighty worth putting a single punch on. Just take a little bit of that tension off of that a minute. Like that. Got me rod in me rod butt there. The hands are free. I can chuck a few pellets in on that short line. Literally just 2, 4 or 5, that's all. I mean, I'm only looking to go in there really late on. And you might only get 2 or 3. You might not get any, but it might be one of them days where you want to rest a line. You'll go in there late, go straight under, and you might just catch that extra few fish. It's no different to when you're F1 fishing with maggots. Sometimes in my a few matches recently for me, I've really struggled long. It's been rock hard, and then I've been throwing maggots in short on F1 venues, and I've caught loads in the last hour, 40 minutes, and it can, it brings you back from nowhere to doing really well. And that's no different to carp fish in the winter. It can work the same sometimes. Well, I've been fishing for about an hour and a half, And I've had 10, I think it's 10 carp, maybe 11. And the last 15 minutes I've not had a bite. I've cast out twice and it's just sat there and nothing. And I sort of expected that really. I did try one cast slightly to the left in a different sort of area, but nothing. Not really seeing anything on the pole, no signs, but I'm gonna have a quick look because I want to, in my mind, there might be some fish on the pole line. So I'm gonna wind this in. I've had a great start, to be honest, a better start than I thought I'd have, to be fair. And it's been nice to catch a few fish on that bombing bread, just for you guys to see it on, in Fink Fishing. So I'm going to just plonk that down. Then I'm going to start on my longer pole line. If I can pick the right rig up. A 4B16. And I'm just going to go out on a soft pellet. So that's on me right hand line. That's not me soft pellet line. That's me wrong rig. So I'm going to start. It's a bit windy. It's hard to see me float when that wind gets up, but I'm going to start on a 6mm soft pellet on my right hand pellet line. Like I said, I fed that twice, one at the start, probably one about 25 minutes ago. Not a lot of bait, so I've got a 6mm expander on. I can always put a hard pellet on, I can just put a band on, but I just want to go out. I do fancy a bit of soft pellet fishing on this lake as well for these carp, because we have had a few sort of pound and a half ones, so if they're feeding I think it'd be dead right. So just plonk that in. It's not going to be easy to see me float at the moment because the sun's in my eyes, so I'm really hoping sort of to get you're hoping you're going to get a quick response, but it is, it is cold, it is clear. I've not loose fed over that line yet, but that's obviously an option. I've just seen a little bubble come up actually, just slightly to the right. I mean, whether that's just the bottom. I think there's a few Caraccio and stuff in here as well, and they're, there's a little indication then, but it didn't look like, might have been a liner that, so that's good. Now, it's obviously I'm just trying to work out sort of if I'm fishing with the right baits. Like I said, it's always a gamble. Just get my butt rest out of the way a second. Take your time shipping out. Now, like I said, I have got an 18 on here at the moment. I can always change that to a 16, especially with fishing with a big 6mm expander, but I thought I'd just try it because I knew it was going to be hard. Well, you never know. It could be fantastic. We've had a fantastic start anyway. Yeah, there we go. Brilliant. That's brilliant. A 6mm expander, great big expander. Oh God, where's this thing going? I didn't even think they were this big in this lake, to be honest. Oh, it's done me, I think. It's done me. That was a unit. It's actually snapped me up length, that fish. Not good. Big fish that. Just went steaming off over there. Good bite. Well, I'm going to put 013 to a 16 on now. I was on 013 to an 18. Whether that's gone through something or not, I'm not sure. But that was a big fish, that. But that's, an indication straight away. just check the depth, make sure the float's not moved. No, perfect. So there's 6mm expanders, a big expander that. But on these carp lakes, it can be deadly. I'm just going to kinder pot or cab pot a few of those soak 4s, only about 6. Very little really. Just tap them in. Don't want to put too much in them. I just want to feel me way into it. Get some confidence of what to do, how much bait to feed. Do I need to put some more micros in? I fed 2 little balls there. I want to try and stick with these 4mm really, because I am fishing for carp. But so as we know, them 2mm some days can keep the fish in your peg a lot longer. Gutted about that. That was a proper unit as well, that. I don't think it was fouled up. It was a brilliant bite. Gutted really, because that, on a day like today, ooh, I think that was a bite. It's hard to see me float. Oh, that is the problem with that sun in my face. It's the worst sort of conditions. It's nice for you to sit in it, but to actually see the float when the sun's shining at you, it doesn't shine on the float and it's horrible. Just stick with that 6mm expander. Always go out on a 6mm on a, when I'm fishing for carp, always have some with you. Especially when there's like good sized carp around. Definitely some fish. I've just seen another little bubble come up then. So just drop that down, let it all go down. Just drop that straight. There's definitely a few fish there because I've seen a couple of little bubbles come up. Now that sun's gone behind that tree, I can actually see, the waves are sort of gone. When them little waves are on it, you can't see anything. It's really awkward to see me float, but anything that pops up like a little bubble, you can see it. There we go. Brilliant. So that's on a 6mm expander. Where's this thing going again? No. That's exactly where that first one went, shooting up to the right. Unless there's a snag there or something. It is half going, this thing. I mean, very rare I'll get seen off on 013 Powerline during the winter, to be honest, on carp. So that's awesome. So the first thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to feed that meat and corn line when I come back. Because looking at this, if it's going to be, if they're having a bit of a go, that meat and corn line could be brilliant later on. You don't know, obviously, it could just be a pellet day. Cool, that sun. It's lovely on your body, but playing fish and stuff. Nice carp. 2.5 pound, £2, £2.5. That's what's so nice about these size fish. Is you go to a venue like at Todber, they feed during the winter. Look at that. What an absolute stunner. Well hooked. Should have probably started on a 16, but there you go. So I'm just going to top up, because that's what I'm looking for. Is I've had like I've looked after that line. I've had a couple of bites there, and then it gives you the confidence then to go and put on, top up your other lines. So I'm just going to put 10 grains of corn, 10 grains of meat on that left hand line. Just sprinkle them out. Just going to feed few maggots then again on that line. Gives you the confidence then, you know what I mean? That's what I love about winter fishing. It just gives you that confidence. One more section on there. Top that up. Because this is all for later, hopefully. Might not happen, but you've got to keep them options open. Six mil expander again. Just get the hook right in the pellet, right in it. So it's literally buried. So I'm going to put a few more 4mm soaked in, probably 10 this time. That's the nice thing about going out, getting a bite gives you the confidence, but you don't want to overdo it. Because it is cold, it is clear. I'm going to tap them out, but try and tap them out in a bit of an area. So they're not all down exactly the same spot. And just drop that, drop your bulk straight down. Let everything catch up. And then drop it down. When that sun moves round to the right later and it's on me float, it'll be absolutely brilliant. My float will stand out like a beacon. At the moment, it's quite difficult. I've got a little bit more float showing in normal because it is awkward to see me float. It's just going through my mind at the moment, will I have to sort of top up with micros again? Oh my God, I can't see a thing when that wind gets up. There we go. I think that was more luck in judgment to see that bite, to be honest. It sort of went and I thought that did move and I've hooked one. And that's awesome. There's something about them big expanders on certain days, certain venues you go. They take some beating, to be honest. Even for bream on some venues. So what I'm playing out, I'm just going to chuck a few pellets on that short line. Because at the moment I'm thinking, I mean obviously they've come to them pellets. That short line could get me a few fish later on. Beautiful size fish. About 2.5 pound. Water's ever so clear. That is like a bit, oh no, I thought it was a bit of an F1, but it's not. It's actually a common carp. Look at the condition of that. Incredible. So I'm building a nice weight at the moment. Nice. Just going to go through the motions at the moment. Just potting in a few 4mm. Looking after them other lines. You know, I've made a decision to feed them other lines with different baits, and you know, that's what I said. That's what you got to do. After today, you know, if I was going to come back again, the stuff you've learned today, you'd be, you know, bring it back with you. Just tap them out. Just drop that straight down, because we are fishing expanders. You know, I mean, we are catching on the bottom. Let everything go down. Just trying to see me float. There's a couple of little bubbles coming up. There's a couple of little bubbles coming up in this whole sort of area, this lake. I just got to watch what I'm doing, you know, sort of working out if I've got to put micros in to keep the fish coming, or whether I can get away with just feeding those bigger pellets. I've also got some 6mm with me, but on this sort of lake with these sort of size, you know, all sorts of different sized carp, I think for me personally, 4 mils takes some beating with micros. I mean, there's definitely a fish there then. There's a few bubbles coming up. Ridiculous really, considering how cold it is. Well, I've been on the pole for about 25 minutes, I reckon. And I've had 3 carp. I've lost that big one that snapped me up. I think I had 2 other fish on a 6mm expander, and then I just sat there for like probably 10 minutes, I suppose, without a bite. So I put another little ball of micros, fed a few more 4s, but nothing. Put a little ball of micros in on my pellet line to me right. I went in, I just thought I'd try a little piece of core. I missed 2 bites, caught a little one, about £2. But now I fed it again, I thought I'll just leave it. So I went on me meat and corn line. I actually put a piece of corn on, never had a bite. So I come back, put a bit of 6mm meat on, went in there, and I've just hooked this one. Probably sat there for about 2 or 3 minutes, and it's just slammed under. And this is on a bit of 6mm meat. This is what I said to you. This is what can happen on any of your carp waters you go to. It's always amazing that people just think meat is just a summer bait, but it's not. If you think how many fish get caught on meat on a straight lead during the winter, and everybody seems to be scared to feed it on the pole. And like I said, it don't always work, but look at that. I mean, that's a massive bonus fish on a day like today. That's probably £8 at least. And that's on that 6mm meat. Perfectly hooked. I'll just try and hold him up, he's a stunner. So that was weird, because I went in there, because I've been feeding like 50-50 meat and corn, and I've went in there with a piece of corn, never had a bite, and I thought I'll just try a piece of meat. Went in there, 2 minutes, whack. Because I've seen them do it, carp. They've seen it, they come up to certain baits, then they won't take it. Look at that. £8 of Tobber Manor White Post carp. Putting a good weight together, considering conditions, it's been absolutely brilliant. Let's get him back. So the same, I'm just using this, the nice thing is I'm using the same rig. So just a little bit of 6mm meat, and all I'm doing with that is just squashing it. I'll do that quite a bit. I think we spoke about it before, just squash it to make it a bit softer. Get the hook in there like that. And just squash it around the hook a little bit, like that. So I'm not going to put anything in my little pot. I can't believe the size of some of the fish we've had actually today. So I'll just flick that, I'll just sort of flick that past me tip a little bit like that. And if they start having this, honestly, it can be absolutely unbelievable. Freezing cold. I mean, I might only get 1 bite on it, but and we've still got a couple of hours to go yet. And I'm going to start loose feeding a bit of meat out there as well. It's just nice that to get a little bit of an area, you know. They're obviously not going to feed ridiculous today. It's just too cold. And you're just getting the odd bite. It's a bit like that straight lead, you know. I've caught Britain. I've probably caught 10 or 11 on that in like an hour and a bit. I mean, that was brilliant. But then they just sort of shut up or shut off. I'm just going to pick my catapult up and just fire sort of 6-8 pieces of meat out there. And it is a bit of a waiting game, you know, it's not summer, you have got to sit there, be patient. But it's always nice to have that option, because you might not catch on it. You know, you might not catch on it at all, and you might not catch on it until the last hour of the match. But believe me, if they come on that meat in the winter, you can go from nowhere. And it's normally, a lot of it is about the stamp of fish as well. There we go. There's a bite. I mean, it's crazy. Oh, it's come off. I think it's come off. I didn't swear out, Dave, did I? That was a big one because it's hooked and it's come up and then it sort of swam off. I think, unless it was fouled up, I don't think it was. It was a proper bite. Just get that hook in that meat. Just gonna tap, just get a little bit of meat, just to put a little bit of bait in where you're fishing. 2 or 3 grains of meat and a couple of grains of corn. Don't forget about these lines. Now, what I'm thinking about that line is also just plonking a couple of grains of meat on that, a couple of pieces of meat on that as well, because I've had a couple of bites out there on it. And that's the way I think about these matches. The amazing thing is I've never had a bite on corn. So I've fed that, obviously I've fed that with a little ball of micros before I come off of it. The amazing thing is that you need, if you come here today and said, right, I'm just going to fish meat and corn on the long pole, the problem is you might miss out on fish. It might take you 4 hours to get a bite on it, and that's no good in a match. You need, you know, sometimes pellets can be really good at the start. You know, your 2 mils, your expanders. And if the fishing is really good, you can obviously catch on hard pellet. But this is like your bonus line, if you like. This is a line that you can just prime up. Yeah, it's a gamble at the end of the day. You know, you might spend half an hour on it, which might cost you, but it'd be some of them days when you go out there, you get a few bites like I've had, and you can put a lot of fish in your net. And if they turn on properly, you know, you can have a bite of chuck in the, you know, late in the match. I mean, it's not like that, you know. He's obviously, this is one of the, it's freezing cold. My feet are cold now, to be honest. They're freezing. Oh yeah, look at that tiny little bite. I mean, that 10 Ollow's perfect for this, you know, this style of fishing. It's brilliant when you catch on like a different bait like that during the winter. People say, nah, you ain't caught on meat. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, no way. And I always bring it with me on these lakes. Feels like a decent fish again. I stepped up to a 16 GPM. Should have probably started on a 16 GPM, but that I just didn't know. I mean, I could have gone out on the pole and not had a bite, and then I'd have probably been on, you know, maggots, and if it had been that bad, I might have even put, you know, a little bit of ground bait in, but we haven't got to that stage. They're a decent carp, nothing like the last one I had on meat, but £3. Brilliant. Not quite £3, £2.5 that one. Look at that, nice Maureen Namura in the sun. Bit of 6mm meat. And go out again. So you don't need to feed a lot. It ain't about that. Give it a squeeze. Giving it a squeeze as well just helps that hook on a cold day like today. Just helps that hook, you know, strike through the meat. I'm gonna do that again. Just sort of four or five pieces of meat, a couple of grains of corn. Still going to feed a little bit of corn. I don't think it's sort of putting them off, even though they might not be picking it up. It's not putting them off. And that's what they do. Sometimes they don't pick up certain baits. I've watched them down the edges sometimes. They will not pick up certain baits. It's incredible when you watch them. So I'm going to tap that out on my float. Chuck a few pellets on that short line. with a couple of little, literally 2 bits of meat. I'm not saying I'm going to catch there, but you never know. Right, well, update. Been going for about, been going for about 3.5 hours. And it's been all right. It's been good, actually, to be fair. Considering the conditions, it's been really good. And what I'm doing, I've been snapped up again, believe it or not, by a great big fish on meat. The biggest fish I've caught on the pole have been on meat, and I'm just on it now, but I can't keep getting like, well, you can't get loads of bites anyway, because obviously the conditions are tough. But I'm just going from my pellet line to my meat line. And I've just had one about £7 on meat, and I've just missed a bite. But last time I went on it, I had like 3 bites, but one of them was like £9, and the other 2 were sort of like £3 or £4. And then I went on my pellet line, I managed to get one about £3, missed a bite. So I've just refed that with a ball of micros. If I don't feed those micros on that pellet line, I can't seem to get anything in my peg. And I've definitely got to rest each line. I can't just sit there and sort of plunder it and think, yeah, I'm going to get a bite. On my meat line, I had like 2 or 3 bites on it when I first went on it. And then I sat there for like quite some time with not a bite. So I put in like 10 grains of corn, 10 grains of meat, went back on my pellet line, caught one, and I think it's pretty obvious at the moment to me that I have to get away from it. I've got to get the bait out of the, or my hook bait out of the peg. But that meat line, I mean, I've caught a few fish on it. Like I said, some of them have been big uns. Not many bites, but quality fish. And the last one I hooked, I've had one about £7, but the one I hooked previously to that, I don't know how big it was. It was a proper unit. I've hooked it and I thought it looked like it was a catfish for a while. And it's gone up there, the same as the one did when I lost the one snapped up on the first dropping on the pellet, really. I mean, I'm fishing 0.13, which I thought was going to be sort of well, and I think it is, to be honest. I mean, I don't know what that, it's just teared off. Well, it just sat there for a bit. I thought, blimey, that's a proper unit. And it's got some speed up and just gone up to me right, and I just couldn't stop it. But I've not had any big ones on pellets. I've had some nice ones, like, you know, 2.5, £3, but the big fish I've caught have been on meat. But you've got to be patient, you know, you've got to be patient, sit there, wait for a bite. And when I come off of it, I pot in like 10 bits of grain, 10 bits of corn, 10 bits of meat, try and get a bite on my pellet line. I had to go short actually for 5 minutes and it never moved. And that doesn't surprise me one bit. But I would do that, you know, in a match. If you couldn't catch long, sometimes you might just nick the odd one short. I mean, at the moment, you'd be a fool to come off of this, you know, nicking the odd fish on the pole. And I'm getting enough indications, really. Oh, look at that tiny little bite on that meat. That's another proper carp by the looks of it. It's that sort of day, clear water, cold, when the big uns feed. It's ever so strange. That float never even went under then. Just take your time. They're proper nodding. Just looking after that pellet line, I've been pinging a few with the catapult as well. While I'm on this line, obviously just to keep that a little bit ticking over, I'm picking my catapult up and firing a few of those soaked 4mm over. Not many, only sort of like half a dozen. Another good carp. They sort of just sit there for a while, I think, because the water's so cold. Not as big as the last one, but still brilliant fishing considering the conditions. Awesome. So that's a 4x16 float. Not had nothing else apart from carp. I think I might have had a couple of bites on those soft pellets. It looked like a sort of a Carasio, little knocks and indications, but I've not actually hooked one. I just had a guy come down to me, he said, "You're catching on hard pellet?" I said, "No, meat." He's like, "Meat?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I don't believe that." And I said, "Well, that's what something you got to try when you go on carp waters." Nice mooring. £6. Try and hold him up for. Look at that. A one-handed £6. Don't get better than that on a cold day like today, does it? Absolutely brilliant. Well, we're going into the last, literally the last knockings now of me 5 hours on white posts. Just going to put a couple of grains of corn, a couple of bits of meat in my little pot. And to be honest, the last 40 minutes has been brilliant on this meat line. And like I said, you can't write meat off during the winter. I mean, this issue wasn't about sort of catching on meat, if you like. It was about catching carp in the winter. And I've nicked the odd fish on that pellet line, kept going back to this, probably caught sort of 4, but the last 40 minutes on this meat line has been absolutely fantastic. But I've been kinder potting a little bit. When I come off of it, if I get a couple of bites, then I don't get a bite for a while. Cup in like 10 bits of meat, 10 bits of corn. Try and catch on your pellet line. Or that's what I've done today on the pole anyway. Go back out on this, but this has definitely got stronger since I've been catapulting meat over the top as well. So making a little bit of an area, like I've said on Think Fishing before, I think on certain days it's massive. And this meat line in the last 40 minutes has been fantastic, to be honest, better than what I thought it'd ever be. I've had carp from like £4 to £8 or £9. Sometimes, and as the day sort of progressed, it's got stronger. So I'm not waiting as long for bites where the fish are probably, you know, looking for a bit of grub. I don't have to leave it anymore. I can sort of fish it, catapult sort of half a dozen pieces of meat over the top and wait for a bite. And it's been fantastic, to be honest. Brilliant. The pellet line is all right, but it is not on the scale of this meat. Nowhere near it. I've caught some fish on pellets, but this meat line, the quality of fish, the size of fish, have been completely different to the pellet line. They're really having it. You know, I've had some of the carp as well on the pole. I've had to use a disgorger. Look at that. Tiny little bite. Unbelievable. And I've had a couple of local guys come down and they can't believe that you're catching on meat. Awesome fishing. And that's what I say to a lot of people. When you go onto a carp water, make sure you take a little bit of meat with you. And if you're in open water, Peg, like I am today, and you can feed it out of the way somewhere, have a little look on it. You know, maybe sort of halfway through the match, you might be able to nick 1 or 2. And when them fish start feeding, you can have a great run like I am now. Another fantastic Top Remander carp. Just gone up to, like I said, went up to a 16 GPM. Started on that 18, that was a mistake, but there you go. I didn't think, you know, I thought I might have to be fishing with maggots. That hasn't been the case. Oh, I've got a lovely little ghosty here. So I'm going to get this one out. I'm going to try and get another one whilst I've got time left. Look at that beautiful ghosty carp. Freezing cold, like blocks of ice, these fish. So, just getting that little bit of meat. Really important, I think, today, like I said earlier, is give that a squash. It just helps it softer, starts falling apart. 6mm meat. Not going to pot anything in this time. Sometimes I don't pot it in, I just want to catapult over the top just to make that little bit of an area. But it's nice now because the sun's gone round to me right and it's shining on me float. I can see every single little indication. Just flick that out past. Get your catapult. Sort of half a dozen pieces of meat. Don't matter about it going, you know, if the odd piece goes past, don't worry too much, as long as it's near your float. It's not the easiest thing to catapult meat. But look for those little bites. I mean, there's a little bit, I got a little bit of float showing today because the wind and the sun. I could probably put like another little number 12 on there now the sun's come round and shining on me float. Look at that, that was a proper, didn't need to put a number 12 on for that bite. I mean, how long's that taken? A minute? And we're in the middle of winter. And this is what can happen at the end of your match. And everybody else is thinking, blimey, you know, what the hell have you caught on at the end? There's no other bait like it sometimes, where you can go in, catch carp like that in winter. Meat is unreal. And I'm absolutely over the moon that it's actually worked today, because you never know. Like I said at the start of the issue, it's not guaranteed, but if it does work on a venue you go to, believe you me, it ain't just carp in F1s. You can also catch lots of bream on it in the middle of winter as well. And if you have got that opportunity to sort of fish it, you know, in an area of your peg, you don't need anything. You know, a tin of meat's going to last you probably, if I come here 5 times, I still wouldn't get through that tin of meat. I've probably fed 150 pieces of meat and probably 80 or 90 pieces of corn. It's not about feeding lots of bait, but they just love it. Another nice fish. Well, I'm going to get this one in because we are out of time in me 5 hours. I mean, there's no rushing. That 10 Olo's been lovely today. Look at that great big thing. This is the difference. This is what I haven't caught on me pellet line. Are these old ones, the old quality ones, the ones that are swimming around, won't pick up certain baits, and that's what, you know, that's what this issue's about. This issue is about catching quality carp on baits. On this bait you only associate with sort of summer fishing, really. That's a beautiful fish as well, that. Got Farmer Pickles going past again. I'll make this one count because it's a proper one. This looks like a ghosty as well. That's funny, we had a little ghosty, now I caught a big ghosty. Ooh, look at that thing. Get out of there. You can see how far you can see that down. You can see it miles down into the lake. And it's not rocket science fishing, you know, anyone can do this. Get yourself a balanced rigs, nice easy shotting patterns, you know. It looks like we've got the Spitfires going over, wherever they are. We had them go over earlier. 2 of them. I don't know if it's Spitfires or some old planes. Look at them, 3 of them in there. Look at that. You get everything at Top Brim Manor. Carp, Spitfires, and beautiful fish like that. Oh. Now if that comes off now, I'll have the right ump. Look at that thing. Put a proper scrap up for this time of year, this thing. Probably could have got away with a 14 at the end, to be honest. Look at that, what a fish to finish the session off. Well, what can I say? I'm going to hold this up. This is an absolute stunner. Nice great big hunchback on it. Spitfire's going over. Catching on meat during the winter. An absolute creature to finish issue 46 on. Catching carp during the winter here at Todburn Manor. I hope you've enjoyed issue 46. I have. It's been absolutely brilliant. And I'll see you next time on Think Fishing.